We are in Salt Lake City for Permissionless, and today I'm with John from Mantra.
How's it going?
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good to see you again.
It's good to have you on for a longer conversation. Last time we talked, we were in Seoul.
Seoul,
It
yeah,
was
very quick one.
brief. Yes. So tell me, how did you get into the industry? Give me the fun story.
I've been in it for a long time. So I bought Bitcoin back in 2013. I had a buddy who was a computer science major when I was in university. I was studying in Spain, in Madrid, and he was doing stuff, I guess, on the dark web, and like told me I should check this Bitcoin thing out. I think it was around like $500, which for me at the time was very expensive. I was a poor college student.
Yeah.
But I got a little bit of exposure, started following the industry a bit, but was on more of like a traditional career path. I wanted to be like banker,
Yeah.
business person, whatever.
Already in the finance.
Yeah, at least that's what I thought I wanted to do. And I ended up moving to Germany and then to Shanghai, China, for master's degrees, like after I graduated from Spain. And I just kept following it. And in Shanghai was when I really kind of went down the rabbit hole, so like 2015 days.
Okay.
And
What triggered that?
I think it was actually like when I moved to Shanghai, it was right when WeChat and like Tencent and Alipay and all these things were like becoming available to foreigners to use in mainland. So I had this like kind of aha moment, like using retail financial applications through the palm of your hand. I'm like, wow, this actually just makes a lot of sense. I don't need a wallet anymore. I don't need, credit cards. I don't need anything. It's all on my mobile phone. And that was like the promise of what blockchain could offer, like this like retail financial application in the palm of your hand, where you have control of your money. So I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense. It should be on blockchain rails. And we're still working towards that goal, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that was like the moment that I had this like, aha, wow, this really makes sense. Then I started working at a bank.
Still looking at Bitcoin then?
Yeah, I mean everything. I mean, like, I started working at this bank, which was a Chinese state-owned investment bank called Guotai Junan Securities. I was like one of the only foreigners ever to work for this company, like the Morgan Stanley of China, basically.
Okay.
And literally one of my colleagues was mining Ethereum at his desk, named Dr. Lee.
You were really in the...
Yeah, Dr. Lee. Shout out to Dr. Lee. And he got me like a little bit more into it, and we were doing a lot of like we're basically a research team, so we're supposed to look at different emerging technologies. I was doing everything, writing my research about blockchain and crypto. I don't know if anyone ever read the research reports, but like I was just getting into it.
Yeah.
And then China banned crypto exchanges in 2017. I quit my job at the bank and I moved down to Hong Kong, where I've been living ever since.
Oh, that's so interesting. And what did you do after?
So I had this like platform where I was actually like bringing a bunch of different fintech companies I was researching to come talk to people and have beers in Shanghai. We'd like take over like WeWorks and stuff. And it became a little bit of like a platform for ICOs. Everyone wanted to get money from China in 2017, right? And I got involved with a couple different projects that I was helping to try to raise some money, and then ended up moving down to Hong Kong to help build out this exchange product. It was like a centralized exchange. The idea was good, but it was like focusing on regulation at a time when being a regulated exchange in Asia was like a bug, not a feature.
Yeah.
So didn't really work out, but I had some good experience. That was like my first like soft landing entrepreneurial experience, I would say. Then did some work with a U.S. broker dealer called Tractorian Capital, where we tokenized a professional basketball player's contract under a Reg D private placement. So like very early RWA, basically. This was in 2019. And then COVID happened. No one wanted to buy basketball player shitcoins. Actually, it was a cool offering, but just as different time.
Yeah.
And that's when we started Mantra. So we launched Mantra in DeFi Summer, literally as just like I needed to do something to like support my life.
Yeah.
And we were like early users of DeFi. We've been doing stuff on Uniswap V1, had been utilizing MakerDAO, and we started looking at this, and we literally just launched Mantra initially it was a DeFi project on Polkadot.
Some of the best stuff came from DeFi Summer.
100%, but not a lot of it's still around.
No.
Not a lot of it's still around. I mean, we celebrated our 4th TGE anniversary in August of this year, so we're like a pretty OG project, I would say. And now we're kind of like, this year's been probably our best year. It's been a pretty good year.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
How did you get to the idea of Mantra?
It's been an evolution, and I think it's really just like an evolution of my life.
Yeah.
And part of it is that story I just told you, which was like we wanted to create a centralized exchange that did, it was more regulation focused, and it was supposed to have, a platform where you could trade any asset under the sun. Like that was the idea. Then that didn't really work, so we tried, the license stuff in the U.S. with the STO basically. That was fine. Got a little bit of success. Got a lot of learning opportunity from that, but it wasn't the right time. It was still very manual. Like you didn't really have DeFi yet, so there were still some issues with STOs clearly. Then we did, DeFi, like pure DeFi. Saw the issues with that. Saw that there was like the writing on the wall of regulatory enforcement coming. I remember I was at Masari mainnet in 2021 when Do Kwon got the subpoena on stage. So it was just like, you could see the writing was on the wall. And we started looking at like, okay, how do we create a better version of DeFi that's safer for people who are not crypto natives? And that does imply a little bit of regulatory oversight. So we're looking at the US market first. That was going great. And then everything slowed down when Luna blew up and 3AC blew up and FTX blew up. So we started looking elsewhere, and we looked into Dubai. We started going through the licensing process there. We're building out this exchange product for real world assets and different crypto assets. And the problem was we didn't have a technological layer to build it on. Ethereum mainnet wasn't working. I mean, it didn't work at the time for mass amounts of transactions. It wasn't very scalable. It's not very cost effective for the end user. And there just weren't many alt L1s at the time that were hot. Like Solana was having its SBF moment at the time. So it was like, okay, where else are you going to go? I guess you could have done like Polygon or Avax or something, but we felt that it would be better, and it fit our use case better to build our own purpose-built layer one for asset tokenization. And that's just kind of been the journey. So it's just been like iterating and trying, and many instances failing. And, people say I pivoted or we pivoted, but I don't feel like it's pivoting. I just feel like it's
Like you the journey, the whole journey.
100%.
Yeah, it seems to me that this year the focus, the industry sort of like started focusing more on like coming to the initial mission, which was to decentralize finance. For a while, one of my most common questions would be like, how do you define this year? Because it felt like a little bit all over the place. But as we arrived to, it sort of like clicked for me around like Token 2049.
Okay.
As you talk with VCs and founders and like the industry, like OGs, it seems like the focus has come back to that. Do you feel that? Like, how would you define this year?
I mean, it's been a whirlwind. And, for Mantra, like we started the year, or at the end of last year, we were probably outside the top 700 or 800 tokens. And I think today we hit a peak of 55. So we've had an incredible explosive, growth. And a lot of that's been like building throughout the bear market and having conviction on this idea that there would be a convergence of real world assets, tokenization, DeFi, on-chain activity, like all these things, but having the understanding that there is a balance between like purely permissionless, totally decentralized use cases and something that we're trying to build, which needs to have that at an element, but it also needs to be able to comply with regulation and do things that institutional investors feel comfortable participating in. So that's really why, like I feel we're the middle ground of like we're building a permissionless chain that has a permission layer for real world assets. The real world assets is where the permission layer is where we want to become the ledger of record for real world assets, that they're issued there, but then they have the ability to go and interact with DeFi in a permissionless setting in more like a synthetic model, I guess. So for us, it's really been like that hybrid approach, and real world assets have been a pretty attractive narrative for a lot of people, but like for us, it was never a narrative. It was just like a conviction bet that we knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's just been a whirlwind, honestly. Like I feel like my life's changing every day in front of my eyes.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
There's been like a lot of trends on DeFi like throughout the years.
Yeah.
What's your take? Like, what's going to be the trend next year?
I feel real yield is going to be back as a thing. I know that was a thing for a bit, because like, DeFi Summer, everyone got sick of the pump and dumps and the Ponzi-nomics and the token emission bullshit. And we just like went back to it again and again and again. And I feel like, people are trying to find economic like models that actually create value for their token holders. And it's this balance of like, okay, how do I do it in a regulatorily safe manner, but at the same time, how do I actually generate something of value for the end user that's not just purely speculation? Like, how do you wean off of like printing tokens to incentivize activity? Obviously, that's a part of the industry, but there is a balance, right? And I think finding that balance is going to be very important for DeFi, and where we're starting to see a lot of excitement from our community, from our investors, is this idea of like bringing in new money through, real world asset yield into DeFi. That's not just about printing tokens out of thin air. It's like actual value, actual dollars coming into the market. And I think that's an important thing to kind of get DeFi out of its like rut, which in my opinion is there's only a few protocols that actually do generate any sort of revenue, that do have sticky user bases, that do have like this market leading position. And everything else is just a farm.
Yeah.
Literally. So like, how do we get away from that? And I think that is something that I feel like people have started talking about a lot this year, is like, how do we actually solve a problem for the end user, and how do we create value for the end user, and how do we legitimately just build a legit product, not just purely like the token is the product. I mean, I get that, that's part of it. It for sure is, but like,
I think with everything, there's always this nuance of like projects that are just trying to make like a quick flip.
of course.
And we will always have that in this industry, I think.
Course.
What's something that you think will not be as hot next year?
Restaking? I don't know. It's so hot this year. There's so many projects that have been building on it. I feel like it's got to come down a little bit. There's going to be consolidation, right? You don't need 15, 20, 30 restaking protocols. I don't know. I don't even think you need that many RWA protocols, to be completely honest. And most of that, I think actually in our sector, there's really going to be a consolidated like couple winners. You don't need a bunch of different, synthetic herp dexes. You just don't need that many. Like, you need one really good one. If it's accessible to everyone, like that's kind of what I mean, I think people like to, it's like, it's not really like making that 100x improvement. It's like a very small, I don't know. So we'll see. I could be wrong.
No, it makes sense. And for Mantra specifically, like anything exciting coming up?
Absolutely. So if I do seem a little tired, it's because I was up last night launching our mainnet. So I actually had Genesis this morning, Utah time. This interview will be coming out later, so I can talk about it a little bit. But we Genesis the blockchain, mainnet is up and running now. And we're looking to launch that publicly for everyone to be able to participate. Right now we don't have any emissions, so it's just the chain is up and running. But we'll have a bridge coming out in a few weeks, and people will actually be able to migrate their existing Ethereum-based tokens to the new mainnet coins. And after that, we have a bunch of interesting RWA partnerships. We called it like Ohmtober, as a little bit of a gimmick, and like, okay, we had this bet. One of our partners had this idea, like everyone thinks October is going to be an amazing month because like it's historically been really great. And everyone's like, oh, rate cuts are coming, blah, blah, whatever. It's going to be amazing.
October.
And it hasn't been October, but it has been Ohmtober and October for us.
Okay.
And we actually like hit all-time high again for I think the third or fourth time this past Sunday. And we're, I think, 2 to 3% off right now. So it accomplished its objective. And we haven't even really announced the good stuff yet. So we hope that, the rest of this year for us is going to be, actually we don't hope, we know, will be really exciting. Community is going to be able to participate on the new mainnet chain, and it's really like the next step of our journey as a community. And we've been doing this for 4 years, but like we're ready to do it for the next 40. So.
It's really exciting. It's entertaining to watch as well. For everyone watching, where can they find you?
Definitely Twitter or Telegram. I think my Twitter is JP_Mullin888. We have this thing for 8s in Mantra. A lot of lucky number 8. It's very auspicious.
John, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, what's up?
But it's not something Genzio is afraid of.
If you want to survive, you got to build a hive.
No, we do not understand that we do not want to have. Ladies and gentlemen.
Get back at the Genzio Media House.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us today.